Hey, good morning and welcome to the Lioness Den. We are so happy that you chose to join us today. We are here today continuing a series that we started on last year talking about going back to school during COVID. Right now, we have some parents, teachers, and students who are with us who are going to discuss their experience going back to school and even talk about things that they do, each day to prepare the children or to prepare themselves as they go to school. So we invite you to sit back and relax, enjoy this discussion. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you like someone to address something, please put it in the chat. And by all means, please like and share this. Like and share this live today. Also, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. We are here and we're not going anywhere. Going back to school during COVID. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Lioness Den, and we are here with our panel. We have a awesome panel today, and we're gonna start off by introducing everyone, and let's see. Let's jump right into it. So first we have Miss Esther we have Miss Esther, and then we have Mr. Alonzo Chapman. We have Dr. Torian Branch, along with Miss Joshelle Jones. It's our first time here, and a few others will be joining us soon. So we're just going to start off and let everyone introduce themselves before we get into the discussion. Miss Esther.
Hi, I'm Esther. I am a parent, but also a director of two childcare centers, ranging from 6 weeks to 12 years old. And I'm here to talk about the daycare going back to school, how it's working out.
All right, then we have Mr. Alonzo here with us.
Hello, hello. I am Alonzo. Let me make sure I get this right because it's too long. The Senior Program Manager for Children's Residential for Autistic Living Residential Facilities. That's a lot to say in one mouthful, but it's what I do. I take care of special needs individuals, and we have a school on campus, and we have had to navigate the transition back into public living. So hopefully, I have some points and some highlights that'll be beneficial today.
As always, I'm always happy to see Dr. Branch. We're so happy you made it, Dr. Branch. Can you introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Torian Branch. I am an assistant principal with DC Public Schools, and I'm excited to be here today.
And our very new person on the panel is Miss Joshelle Jones. Joshelle, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Joshelle Jones, and I am a student at
Baltimore
Baltimore
City
Leadership
School.
School for Young Women
Okay.
High School. Yeah.
You didn't. If you didn't want to say it, you didn't have to. I understand. So, guys, we're here today, and we want to talk about going back to school during COVID. Last year we went through the virtual school year. It was great for some of us. It was not so great for some of us, but we made it through. And this year we're actually back in person. And this is, I think Dr. Branch went back last year in person, actually. But for the rest of us this year, we're fully back in person. And we want to talk about that experience, what it's been like going back to school. I think I want to start with Miss Joshelle Jones because she is a student going through being in person after a year of virtual school. Joshelle, can you tell us how has it been going? We're almost through September now, and so you've been back, and all of the new criterias, mandates, whatever they call them, you're in it. So tell us how it's going for you.
Um, Sometimes it's confusing because we've been asking about the COVID testing, and they didn't know how to clearly explain it to us. But I had my first COVID test last week on Thursday, and the COVID testing is not like a normal swab on your nose. You gotta spit in a tube. and it has to be 1.5. I don't know the thing, but the tube is about this big, this little, and it's like a funnel, and it can't be bubble spit. Like it has to be drool to fill the tank,
Okay.
the little tube. And it takes a minute. Like I was sitting there probably like 15 minutes trying to drool in a tube.
Sounds very interesting. I have not had a COVID test where I had to drool in a tube, so this is new to me. Uh,
Can I
Dr.
jump in for
Branch,
just a second?
yes, please.
So, my school does the exact same testing, and imagine trying to get 3 and 4-year-olds to drool and spit into a cup because,
Trying to
you
get an
know,
11-year-old with autism to do that.
exactly. So, parents tell their kids don't spit, right? And now you come to school and you have adults telling you, "Oh no, you should do it," and they're just like, I can't do it." And it's been very asymptomatic testing has been very interesting. I'll say that in the last couple of weeks.
Might I
Wow.
add, from my perspective, that if you take that same spit test and you apply it to low functioning special needs individuals who already have issues controlling their saliva, it turns into a somewhat trying test, both for the individual and for myself and my sensitive digestive tract. Uh, it can get to be disturbing, is the appropriate word to describe it. But I've had to do it a couple times with a number of individuals. It takes some time, but whew, it's a doozy.
Wow. Wow. Miss Esther, do you guys do any type of testing like that?
No, ma'am. We are just starting to talk about testing, random testing at the child care center. We have not ventured into that as of yet, and I am very grateful.
I understand. What a way to start this conversation off with the spit test. Quite. Oh, thank you, Joe Shao. Thank you so much. And so we're back in school. We're having random testing of all of the kids who are in person. For me, we don't have any random testing here because Julie is still virtual. And so I think she's happy for that because we did not know that that was the way they were testing. But for now, yeah, we don't have to do the COVID test. We're just, still virtual, still the same thing as last year. A little different. We can talk about that with the virtual because Mr. Branch, you were a part of this year. The virtual is a little different because now the way they did it last year is totally different. They have dedicated teachers who are just for them. Morning, Kayla. We have dedicated teachers who are just for them. So, Mr. Branch, can you talk about how the virtuals works this year a little bit?
So, at the end of last school year, in a number of school districts, students had the opportunity to apply to be in the virtual learning programs, and part of that application process, and it differs from district to district. Some districts, their virtual learning programs are only for students who have medical reasons that would exclude them from being in a traditional brick and mortar school. In Baltimore City, their virtual learning program was not really grounded in COVID. It wasn't a COVID response, right? The virtual learning was a academic response because there were a number of students who did better in the virtual environment. Like there are a number of adults who do better in the virtual environment, who have been doing better working from home because they're not distracted by their coworkers every 5 minutes with cat memes, right? So we have a number of students who have done better in the virtual because they don't have classmates who are distracting them and they are not a distraction to others. So they're able to actually focus on their academics. So that's the strategy that Baltimore City used when they allow students in the summertime to apply for the virtual learning programs. And there's some issues that need to be worked out, from my understanding, in all of those programs because there's not a clear separation between that child's home school where they like their zone school and their virtual learning school. So they have to figure out like who does the child belong to, right? Who is the actual teacher of record and who's responsible for making sure this child gets the materials that they need. And then if we have students who are identified as needing special needs supports as an IEP or a 504, who's responsible for implementing those things? Is the virtual learning school who's going to be implementing it, or is it going to be their homeschool implementing those supports? I know before I pass it back, I just want to say that I'm definitely of the mindset that virtual learning is a necessity for our students, that we need to provide them with the learning modalities and platforms that speak to their strengths as learners. I think that we have to get away from our antiquated educational beliefs. Those of us who believe that pencil and paper are the only way to do math and to do reading and science, we have to get out of that, because watching 3 and 4 year olds and 5 year olds go to a computer lab and they have something that looks like this, they have no idea what this is. They are used to trackpads and touch screens, right? So when you put them in front of a mouse, they're like, I don't know what this, how do I use this? Push a button. What button? I don't see any buttons, right? So we have to get with the times, and online learning is just one of those things that we have to get with.
Got you. That is definitely food for thought. Thought. I do want to switch lanes for 1 second from virtual back to Miss Jochelle here, because she's here and she's the youngest one on our panel, so we really appreciate her coming. I want to ask more about her experience in this in school person to person. How is the classroom structured for you? Um, what type of precautions are taken? Do they still have up barriers to kind of keep you guys, social distance or whatever? So can you tell us a little bit more how your day goes, Joshelle?
Okay, so I'm not going to tell stories. We do not social distance at all. At all. Like the desks are literally right next to each other.
Oh
Um,
wow.
that's what people were complaining about. Like it's no 6 feet, nothing. You literally next to the person. But the masks are up over your nose and mouth, and they make sure throughout the day. And when you're going to the class and leaving the class, you have to wipe down the desk and your chair and all the you like the pencils and things that you have used that belong to the classroom. You have to wipe that down. That's all.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, it's good to know because that's something that we can share with our children who are like you have to be um, you are in control of being your own social distancing. You're in control of having your own cleanliness when you go in there. You have to be, vigilant about protecting yourself, basically. Um, and so that's good to know because I know here, I'm in North Carolina, and I know here that I think we're still doing 3 feet, is what they said. They changed from 6 to 3 feet social distancing. So my daughter's not in person, but I would guess that they're still trying to do the 3 feet. So to hear that there is not really any social distancing, um, it's a little disheartening, but it's how we teach our children what to do next, how to be vigilant, how to prepare them for being in person in this new world because this is a whole new world for us. Um, Miss Esther, how do you guys do it with the little ones? Because they've been in person this whole time. Do you guys practice social distancing, or how do you keep them at a distance to try to be as protective as possible? I mean, is it possible? I guess that's what I'm saying. Is it really
So
possible?
it's really not possible to keep two, three, four, five in a classroom of 20 if you're looking at 3 to 5 year olds and 12 if you're looking at 2 year olds. There's no way to really keep them socially distanced. At the beginning, we had these tubes that we would sit on the floor, and like the beach tubes, and they would sit inside. So we could say, "Hey, you're getting out of your tube," so you're invading the space. But as they allowed us to add more students to the classroom, it's no way to put that many tubes on a rug in order to do that. So in one of my locations, we do circle time from the table, which is much different than circle time as a big group on the floor. Um, and still, it's very difficult because there is no dividers between childcare children either. They do wear the mask. The center has done lanyards so we can pull it up on their head to keep their nose and their mouth covered. And then when it's time for them to go outside, it can just hang. So it's not hitting the ground. They're not losing them. They're not going out the door and the parents hollering. You made me bring a mask, but they didn't come back home with a mask. So we did supply that. We do have a regiment that we've been doing. So we teach for probably 40 minutes, and then the other 20 minutes every hour is dedicated to wiping down, washing hands, going to the bathroom. We intentionally prepare manipulatives for each hour. So when the hour is up, those manipulatives have to come out of play so that they can be sanitized and then a new set. So it might be about four sets of the same thing, but it's so that we can take it out and put new ones in so the next group coming to use them has clean toys in order to play. Um, Give me a second. Give me a second. Um, the other thing I would say is we have gone completely contactless with parents. And the reason is because COVID has really stayed out of the building except for twice, I would say, in two locations. But when you notice that parents are coming to the door sick, if they were actually in the building, I think it would be a little bit harder. So we've gone to a system called Brightwell that allows them to check in on their device, that allows them to sign their children in, to answer the questions as far as COVID exposure. Even payments have now gone to where we can collect them without you touching me or me touching you. It's a wonderful thing. Some parents are still trying to get used to it and wrap their head around it. But we are trying to be as positive as possible. It is for the safety of everyone. The other thing that I think that I should mention is with childcare, we are not under the same mandates that the school system is under. Because when the school system has a case or the pool test positive, they're not shut down for 2 weeks. The childcare centers are shut down for 2 weeks. If you have two cases, it is considered an outbreak. So there is a whole stringent that childcare centers are under that the schools are not under, which makes it a little bit difficult when you ask me how is it going with back to school. Um, because if we get cases, we're treated totally different than the school system. And parents have to understand that because they're like, well, they didn't do that at school. Why do we need a clear book bag so you can spread and wipe it down coming in? But they don't need it at school. Well, school has different mandates than the child care centers. So we have to do whatever we need to do to protect us as well as still run a business. So we have a lot of things that we do. We spray the shoes, we spray the book bags. They cannot come in because we have no way of asking children, have you been around someone with COVID? They don't know. Their parents
Right.
don't even know. So the screening doesn't work for after school children. It just doesn't. We're picking them up. It's a possibility that they already may be sick. So what we do is take a thermometer. So if the child has a temperature at the school. It doesn't matter about the sun. They're outside, and your temperature can go. If they have one, the school is aware that they have to call the parent, have the parent to pick up, because we can't take the chance that there is an issue. Um, are there still chances being taken? Absolutely, because one of our schools have already had four positive cases. We didn't get any notice about it, but we still were picking up children from the classroom, which it just puts us in a almost impossible situation. But we're doing the best that we can. So now we've gotten a site where we can monitor how many cases. We still don't know who, and what classrooms, but we can say, oh, that school's had two. So what do we want to do going forward to see if we want to still continue aftercare, or if we want to keep rolling. So it is a different, it's very different. It's a different ball game when it comes to the school system as well as the child care centers because the school is has totally different mandates and things that they're looking at, and it's totally different on the childcare side.
Wow. That it's amazing that we work hand in hand seems like, but there are always different nuances to everything that make it a little bit different, a little bit different. With that being said, so Alonzo, you have the other end of the gauntlet. So Esther has the when they first start and they come to her and how she has to do, and then you guys, you and Kenya, you guys have the other end of the gauntlet because sometimes you have young people who can't even tell you what's going on around them, and sometimes they don't know. So how are you guys dealing with this going back to school in person situation?
Um, well, for me, I have a different situation than most people because I am functioning from the private sector. We do collaborate with public schools as I believe we are a charter school with our actual school, but all of our kids, because we function in the private sector, we technically have an exceedingly high vaccination rate, which kind of gives us the notion of moving towards herd immunity. So in that instance, because when we sat down and we had a brainstorming situation, we looked through the CDC guidelines, we looked at all the science, and then we had to look at clinically what was even possible for our individuals. Because I mean, where it is a almost impossible struggle for say Esther to get a 4-year old to wear a face mask, it is a potentially dangerous scenario for me to try and force a special needs individual age 16, 17 to wear face masks when they have no comprehension of what a pandemic is or what corona is or why do I have to do this every day. Oftentimes, like I've had kids where we have struggled where just this concept of them wearing a face mask and smelling their breath for extended times because sometimes they don't brush their teeth the best in the morning. And it took a lot of planning and a lot of data research and nitpicking and turning stones to realize Billy's not brushing his teeth good in the morning. We need to get with the OT therapist to help him because Billy's trying to wreck everybody. But we've kind of been stumbling our way through this. We got somewhat of an early start. We reopened back in June and we do an extended school year so that we do not suffer regression because one of the things we've seen, and Kenya might be able to speak to this, and also Torian as well. With special needs individuals, the time off from school leads to severe regression, which is very hard for them to maintain the progress that they have been maintaining when they have a stable schedule at school. So with the virtual school, we saw a lot of regression. So there was a lot of work, both academically and behaviorally, just to get the kids back in school outside of the safety protocols. We were able to, in some way, circumvent the safety protocols by having all of our individuals vaccinated once it was appropriate. But the behavioral and the bounce back from just that break of structure and that break of the norm, that was truly monumental to us. We had to adjust several treatment plans. We had to develop social stories to bring the idea of what it means to go back to school. What does it mean to go back and your class is not the same? Why can't I see my teacher's face? That's hard for what you might call a typically developing child, but it is monumental to a special needs child who are looking for those in between details and those unspoken communications that they will be receiving from their teachers. So it in that regard, it has been a stark uphill battle. I do consider myself to be fortunate not to have to debate with and contend with the outside agencies because I run a residential facility. So all of my kids are in a bubble. I know where my boys are every day, all day. I know who sees them. They check in with me. So that is always very secure. But I think the last thing that has been really challenging is the symptoms checklist. And I don't know if anyone else has had issues with this, but there's an extensive list of symptoms. And if we have these symptoms, it's a no questions asked COVID test gotta go. And it can be very trying. It has been trying for a number of parents I work with, and it's trying for me as I serve as legal guardian for these young men. Because oftentimes, you get that emergency call and something that in the past would be very mundane and they would be able to maybe spend an hour in a nurse's office and be fine. They now have to come home. We have to COVID test, and we have to be in compliance with the county regulations.
Mhm.
Lydia, I believe you are still muted.
Muted.
Ah, you can hear me now, can't you?
Huh?
Dr. Branch, I know you have to go, but if you want to talk a little bit about this before you leave, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, so the in DC we have a protocol, it's the ask look protocol, which gives us all of our symptoms, and it's really tricky because right now is allergies, sinuses, regular cold, and it's really hard to distinguish between what could just be morning sniffles, right? Because I think we're used to waking up and maybe have a little cough, but it goes away in an hour. That is difficult to manage, and you want to have an abundance of caution. And I think the hardest part has been helping parents really understand what the symptoms are on both ends, right? What the symptoms are so that you just aren't sending your kid to school sick, and what symptoms are present for why you need to pick them up and have them tested. The other two big things I really want to hit on is there is a difference between being quarantined and being positive, and I don't think people really understand, the way the school systems are taking precautions when it comes to sending kids home who may have been a close contact to somebody who tested positive. Um, just because 5 kids were sent home to quarantine does not mean all 5 kids are positive. Going off what Alonzo just said, all of our students are having a struggle with this return to school, not just students who have special needs. One of the things that, as a third through fifth grade administrator, I'm contending with right now is my young people don't understand. They haven't bounced back yet to the pressures of having an adult in front of them asking them questions. And they're used to being able to mute their microphones or turn their cameras off. But now they're in a physical space with someone who's not just going to go away when they ask a question. And some of them are they're really just struggling with the idea that there's a person who's expecting me to give an answer, and I can't hide. So we have to give our young people the resources, and it is twofold because I am working with my teachers to really be more understanding that young people have been able to get away with a lot, like not showering, bathing, brushing teeth, putting on deodorant. Like they have to get into a lot of just regular routines, and parents just have to also understand that you have to help your baby understand that the requirements are a little bit more now, and that the person in front of you has your best interests at heart, but you there's going to be some growing pains, as I told a parent on the phone on Friday. There's going to be some growing pains, and no one's hurting your baby, and she just a little bit mad because the teacher's frustrated, but you'd be frustrated too if you ask your baby a question 3 times and they just look at you with a blank face, right? So that's where we are right now. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here. I really appreciate you guys. Have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you. Thank you. Since we started, we had two more parents to join us, Miss Ellie Wilson and Keela's mom, Miss Kenya Sullivan. Um, and we've had a great discussion thus far, but I did want to introduce the two people. And if you want to introduce yourselves real quickly as we move on, that would be great. Kenya, you always here, so could you go, please? And then we'll. Miss Wilson is a newbie.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, Kenya.
Okay, look, my laptop just shorted out, and so I'm on the phone. Moms always have to have backup. You never know. You have to be ready for everything all at once. So I am Keela's mom. I'm Kenya Sullivan. Keela is 11 years old. She started a new school, and it's been a whirlwind of stories already. Miss Wilson.
LA, could you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Lucretia, but everybody refers to me as LA. I am a proud parent of a boy and a girl. My daughter is 16 and she goes to in person high school, and my son is 13 and he is virtual at home.
So, with I know Miss your daughter is very shy. So I will ask you because Joshelle told us some very interesting things. How that there is not no real social distancing at her school. How has it been for your daughter at her school? Because she's returned in person.
So Gabrielle, I love her to death. She is my little Lysol baby. Ever since the pandemic started, she has carried a travel size can of Lysol everywhere she went. So, unfortunately, with Baltimore City, they gave an option to be virtual, but they only let 2,000 students. And my daughter was accepted for the virtual program, which she would have preferred. But if you were a student at a choice school, which she goes to Western High School, which is a choice school, you gave up your seat if you wanted to be virtual. So I let her make the decision, and she said, well, I've done 2 years and I want to graduate from Western, so I'll go back. So when she packed her book bag, in the front of her book bag was Clorox wipes. It was her travel size Lysol spray. It was hand sanitizer. She has her own soap because in the past, the school system did not have soap in the bathrooms. So she took her own hand soap. She has a face shield and several face masks that she takes with her. And she often gets in the car with me and tells me historical uh, crazy stories about her friends who she may not have classes with, but they see her in the hallway and she puts up her hand like, I don't know where you've been. Stay away from me. It's nice to see you. Um, so I, on one hand, I I was uncomfortable sending her back to school, but because she's 16 and I know how she is at home, um, I trusted her going back to school to at least take care of herself and to social distance when she can, and to clean the area. Like every class, every time, even back to school, I told the teachers, my daughter is going to be wiping down her desk every time she comes into your classroom. So just know if she has her gloves on and she's doing it for her safety. But unfortunately, they still do group projects in school, which she is not a fan of. They still want them to get close together and do projects together, which I felt kind of weird. But she almost got in trouble. She was like, Ma, I didn't want to move my desk close to them. And I said, you shouldn't have to. So that particular teacher, I said, she doesn't have to move her desk because she doesn't know what everybody else has. And as of right now, they inform the parents with an email that people have tested positive. And in the 3 weeks of school, we have already received 6 emails.
Mm.
Wow. See, and that, we want to protect our children. We want them to get their education. And so these types of conversations is what help us to know what we should do basically to protect our kids. Because like Joshelle said, all they're telling them to do, they don't have any distance, but they're just saying wipe your desk when you leave. So that was good to hear. Um, I do want to tap back into Kenya. Kayla has gone back to school in person.
Yep.
She has gone, hi, Kayla. She has gone back to school in person. How has that been for you, with Kayla going back in person and having to make sure that you're taking care of everything she needs as far as it goes for being safe?
It has been hellish. That's the best way to say it. It's been hellish because she takes the bus, y'all.
Mm.
The
Ooh.
first few weeks she was not taking the bus. I was taking Lyft because Lyft was actually safer than her not having any transportation and missing school. Well, she decided to leave us now. It's been difficult and hellish because I did not know the teachers. She was at an elementary school and now she's moved to middle school. So it's all new teachers. They have to get acclimated to her. You have to make sure that they, administer the proper protocols that are on the bus and in the classroom. But you as a parent, you haven't even seen the classroom that, your kid is in yet. So you don't know how clean the school is. And my first day at the school, the flag in front of the school looked like my fingers, just rags blowing in the breeze. I'm like, that's strike one. She's mouthing for me to stay outside. She wants to go outside. Yeah. I went outside, please, at least. Excuse her, please.
Do you need a minute?
No, because I'm on my phone. I'll just walk up and open the door for her and just be
Okay.
outside. So, But it was really difficult because transportation wasn't telling me anything about school. How they're going to, she needs a harness on the bus. Also, this is an hour ride to school. She's the first one they pick up and the last one, they drop off. So that means she's going to run around a whole bus full of kids that I don't know anything about. Ew, germs. Outside of what? The classroom that she's going to be in for like 6 hours? Ew. So, bit of a germaphobe myself. I had a problem with that. So, I was calling North Avenue every day. I'm diligent with that. So, it was hellish with that. It's calming down a little bit more. We got one letter outside of our mandatory, because it was mandatory. The little letter that says, well, we know that we're sending our kids back to the school and germs are there. And should anything happen, we can't sue the school because we know what we're doing. And just like Miss Wilson said, I went all 2020 with Keela being in the living room and in the dining room with me being the teacher. 6 hours a day, maybe a little break in between, but that just canceled out everything else, including myself. I don't even look like myself, that whole year. But she was able to at least maintain where she didn't know much, but she was maintaining what the teachers were doing academically. And socially, it was a little different, but she was at least ready to wear a mask. She'll wear a mask now. We have to have a little necklace, to go with it. So she knows it's a part of our practice. I didn't just stay in the house all the time. I'm vaccinated. She's not, but she will be. I prefer that. But we stayed in the house most of the time. Even her grandmother, we all, we were like, you're not going to go out too much. Exposure, I'm already high risk, so I didn't want to take that chance. Her father already died 6 years ago. So we don't want to leave her without me too. So that was one of my concerns. But it's been hellish as far as trying to be on top of her exposure. She's not going to tell me. She's not going to say, and she's really learning to be affectionate. Social parts, are important, eye contact, face to face. She did not always do that, but as she's developing on her own, she's learning that hand touching and all that. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that now. So it's counterproductive in a lot of ways. But I'm making the best of it. Oh, I didn't
Okay.
take too long to explain that.
No, no, because see, so we're used to, and we have to have the conversation, because we have all types of children, and so we have to have the conversation how everyone is dealing with this newfound life. This is the unfortunately it's the new normal for now, and
Yeah.
so everybody is going through it. I know I wanted to switch lanes a little bit. I know that you did homeschooling last year, but so did Miss Esther, and Miss Wilson down here.
How
Everybody
did
did
y'all do it?
homeschooling last year.
You did it too, right, Lonzo?
And
You did.
Alonzo also did it with his center. So
Y'all understand my feeling of, oh my God, where am I? Who am I? Because you just
yeah, you're
so
not the only one. So now that
make me
a lot of
right.
parents, because they did homeschooling, they're very happy that their kids are back to school. Because it
But
gives
under
them
the
some sort of
circumstance.
normalcy. Yeah, it gives them some sort of normalcy. So what I wanted to talk about, because Miss Wilson, who is a good friend of mine, can you share with people about the apps for your kids who are still virtual? Because mine's is virtual and yours is virtual. How we can stay on top of things.
Oh, my dear son. Um, So yeah, as I said, he's still virtual and at home. And I made it a point. So I learned a lot from last year. It was trial and error, right? My daughter was pretty self-sufficient, didn't have any, problems with her. My son, not so much. He's a typical teenage boy. If you don't stay with him, stay on top of it. If it's not in his face right then, right there, he forgets about it. So what I learned, I actually downloaded. They submit all of their work in Google Classroom. And so, if you don't know, you can download a Google Classroom for parent, and you get little messages for the teachers or reminders. But I also downloaded Google Classroom and signed in as my son. So on my phone, my Google Classroom app is my son. So every time the teacher posts something For the student, an assignment is posted. I see it in real time.
That's right.
Every time it's graded, I see it in real time. If they leave them a private comment, I see it. It gives me a notification. In addition, in Baltimore City, they have Infinite Campus, which they have a parent portal and a child portal. With both of them are pretty similar when I looked at compared it to my daughter. But in real time, I set up my notifications soon as so in addition to them submitting their work in Google Classroom, the teacher has to actually put their grade also in Infinite Campus. So as they put more and more grades in, as soon as they put one grade, Infinite Campus says Gabrielle or Philip has got this grade in this class, and then another notification comes by and say their current grade in this class is this. So as grades are added, it also gives you where their grade is up into that point. And I find that very helpful. Again, not so much worried about my daughter, but for my teenage typical boy son, that is very, very helpful for me. And although I opted to keep him virtual, I understood that that took more work on my behalf because, yes, he would thrive better in a classroom setting. But for my peace of mind, um, again, I stress the typical teenage boy. They do anything. I know the school last year for the 2 months they went back, his middle school he was in, they allowed them to go outside for recess. Nobody really watched over them during lunch. And I was like, no, we can't have that. So that's why I opted to keep him home because I did not want him to come back and I asked him like, well, what did you do today? Who were you around? And he wouldn't have been able to clearly ask me because he wouldn't have been thinking about it while he's outside playing football with his friends throwing the ball around. And I feared more for him to come home with COVID than I did my daughter. So I kept him home, which makes more work for me because I have to stay on top of his schoolwork. But the Google Classroom app really, if you download it on your phone, every notification comes to you. You won't miss anything. And I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah, um, Miss Esther, because you had a you had a heck of a year last year with the
Yes.
virtual learning, and you did the center because your daughter also did homeschool. How was that for you, and what tips or things would you tell other parents who are trying it this year?
So I too kept Licia in homeschooling. I said I wasn't going to, but I did keep her in homeschooling because I was able to go to the schools and talk to the schools to ask about social distancing and how they were doing things. And the classroom sizes were just too big. Um, and it was her first year in middle school. It just made me uncomfortable because I'm doing everything at the center to keep it out. And she's going to a whole different entity, not even the schools that I deal with. It just wasn't going to work. So I did go back to homeschooling. I actually bought the homeschooling stuff, but I was still in limbo as if I was going to do it. What I learned this year, opposed to last year, was to put her on virtual learning that gives me updates similar to what LA is talking about. So it tells me if Licia stayed on the whole time. It tells me if she just went and put answers in, or if she literally took the time that was allotted. I am the only thing I don't like about it so far is that it starts later than the other children's schooling. But so far, I think I really like it because Licia was one of those kids. We did the DVDs last year, and it wasn't real time. So she would fast forward through whatever she didn't want to listen to, write whatever answer, and she would tell us that she was done. This year, it literally like when you download, it goes until it's supposed to go. So if you log out early, I know that. If you didn't complete an assignment, I know that. Um, and the only thing that I have to do is monitor the homework and the testing, which is much easier than it was last year because I was writing a schedule every day, trying to make sure that she kept up with the schedule, then come back from the other center and had to check it. And oftentimes Licia would do what she didn't want to do, ball up what she thought I wasn't going to check on. It was just chaotic. So this year she's trying to figure out a way around it. I don't think it's a way around it. So I'm excited about what it's going to look like because her grades were not bad at all, but the gray hair that's in my head is a result of Licia and homeschooling. And I have several now, but I head full of it. But I think I feel better with knowing where she is and who she's around. So she is in my office every day, but I don't have to worry about what she might bring home. And children are getting sick. Children are going to the hospital now. And although it is a new normal, it's not one that I want to chance if I don't have to. Um, so I would say to any parent homeschooling, just buckle down because it's going to
There.
be a heck of a year again. And we're just trying to do the best, try to do the best that you can, and know that whatever you're doing, it's for their benefit. And I'm really not here to be her friend. However, I'm here to make sure that she gets an education and she stays
Amen.
healthy. And that's the focus for me. Even if it causes me some gray hair, I have to be mommy, and mommy's going to do what's best for you. So she wants to go back, of course. Not yet, not yet. I'm not ready.
Yeah, I agree. As you know, I kept Julia home, and thank you, LA, for telling me about the app because they don't use Google Classroom here in North Carolina. They use Canvas. And I was like, I don't have an app. And with the help of LA, I now have that app that also tells me she did not complete this assignment. She has
Yes.
this many assignments missing,
Even on it in
and
the
I don't
summer.
know about anybody else, but the peace of mind that you get when you know you have to work every day and you know that my kid is not going to be able to do this face mask thing all day. Um, I'm going to have to do extra if I send them back to school as far as just making sure that they're safe because, again, like she said, her kid, he likes to play. Mine's do too. Very social. So you can't necessarily depend on, like Mr. Branch was saying, depend on them doing exactly what they're supposed to do when it comes down to keeping on the mask,
Right.
doing the things that the teachers are telling them to do as far as the social distancing. So it's a good thing when we can, for me it's a peace of mind thing. And I think that I can, the other mothers will agree with me right now because that's what we have on here now.
Yeah.
Agree with me that it is a peace of mind thing right now because what we're looking at is so you just don't know what tomorrow holds. But the virtual learning has been better for us this year. Julia now wants to try in person, and we may have to, depending on what my job does. But for now, I have a chance to keep a handle on it. And that right there is great for me. My good niece, who you were talking about, my good niece, I wanted you to talk about that because I was very, very surprised when we talked last year about how her system worked, the videos and everything. So I went and invested in one. And my daughter, we did a summer program and she did it for like 3 days and told me, yeah, Ma, I don't want to do this. It's not going to work for me. But my good niece made it a whole year with it. So, that was wonderful. So I have to tell you, guys, I know we're on a live, but my sister has really, do, you don't know her, so you don't understand. But over the past year, she has really, really worked hard with this whole education thing for her girls along with her job because she didn't get one day off. A lot of us were able to work from home. She didn't work from home one day.
What?
So it is a big deal.
Not one.
It is a big deal. It is a
Lord,
big deal when you have a mom who did not work from home. Working from home is still a lot. Don't get it wrong, because I do it just about every day.
what
But
you
when
say?
you're going out every day and still trying to keep a hold on that virtual learning, even the in school learning can be tough, but the virtual learning I think was tougher for us. So that's why
Y'all,
we're
yeah.
having this conversation to try to talk to, different people who are doing different things to find different tools, because that's how the
Right.
community is, how we go forward. We can't do it alone. So that's really what's going on. I appreciate you ladies for coming on and everybody who's been on today because this is a conversation that really needs to be had. We need support. And I want to say, Linus Den is about sisters supporting sisters. We have our brothers who come and help us, but we're really about sisters supporting sisters. And that's what we're doing right now, and it's sharing tips. And I can tell you the tip that the LA shared with me has been, I don't know how much Julia likes it, but I love it. you know, and the things that Kenya has said about just, we don't know how the school buses are going because our kids, mine's is virtual. Licia is with Esther, but she has a kid who's on the school bus. So this is what we do. We come together and support one another. We're about to end. This has been a great hour today. I've learned so much from everybody here. But if you could leave one message with every parent, female, male, whoever, who's dealing with either in school or out school, in person or virtual, if you could leave them a message or tell them something, the one thing that keeps you going, the one thing that might help them to go tomorrow, what would that be? I want to give each person a chance to share, and then we're going to close this great discussion. Let's start with Miss Sullivan.
Well,
Yeah, you an old pro at this. You an old pro. Man, you come on what?
I'm
Once or
going to
twice.
get us to do it. Us ain't had no days off. Let me shut my mouth. I don't get no days off either, but I got one, and she like 9 children in one. But you to go, you to go. One thing I can say is just stay diligent. This is an investment in your child. So if you feel best in keeping them at home, then by all means, I'm definitely one of those that's like, I don't know if I want her to go because germs, but just stay diligent in doing all that you can to make sure that you are there another day, that you live long enough, to help them live long enough. The education part is ugh, it's a lot, but it's worth it. And a sound investment always brings a sound return. At the end of the day, your child is learning and they're healthy. So that's the main thing I can say. Just continue to be diligent in their welfare, but you got to take care of you too. That's all.
Miss Wilson. Miss Wilson.
If I could leave something, it's just don't be so hard on yourself as a parent. If you're doing the best you can, you are doing the best you can. And believe it or not, your children see it and your children know it. As Miss Kenya said, it is an investment. So if you're doing the best you can and you're loving on your child, that's the best you can do, and be okay with that. It's a very stressful time now. I would even encourage you to get a support system. If you don't have a support system, as Lydia said, Lioness Den is about sisters helping sisters. But in your small immediate group, get a circle of friends that you can vent to, that you can talk to, because sometimes, especially with the pandemic, while some things, open and kids going back to school, there is still a level of isolation, especially when you're trying to stay healthy and do the right things. Um, in my house, I take my daughter to school. I go to work. My husband goes to work. We go out usually once a week to go to the grocery store. And then we're back in the house. And I understand for children, that can be a little tough when they're used to being out and about and social. So we still have a level of isolation. I would say for parents, get yourself a support group, a good group of friends that you can talk to, vent to, and just have a moment with. And make sure that your children have a support group. My son, his is gaming. So all his friends, Friday night, Saturday, is on Fortnite or whatever of us. I don't know too many of them. I know Fortnite because it's the crazy looking one. But he has that social group that kind of keeps him interacted even though he's at home. So just parents, don't be too hard on yourself and just find yourself groups to keep yourself going until this whole pandemic is over.
Miss Esther.
I would just say to breathe, to pace yourself, and to give yourself a list and let it be okay if you don't finish the list every day. If you don't finish that list today, you just pick up tomorrow where you left off and you create the new list along with the stuff that you didn't. Because you're human and you can't do but so much. So I have learned to do that this year. It's actually working out really, really well. If we don't get it done today, we'll get it done tomorrow. And it's
Amen.
okay. And it's okay. And
Amen.
that has worked. That has worked for me.
Thank you, ladies, so much. This has been a
Preach.
great conversation. I really, really appreciate all of you coming. Um, we will need to talk again because sister supporting sisters is so important. And I appreciate each one of you. You all hold a special place in my heart. Everyone who's been here does today. Um, we don't want to stop the conversation. We will talk again because just giving those tools, I mean, like I said, that one little app thing was like somebody showing me the light. I was like, yes, because I didn't know last year. So these types of things is what help us to move forward. Before we end, I'd like to talk about on the Lioness Den in the next couple of weeks, starting next week, we're going to have Sister Supporting Sisters, the Survivor Series. It's going to be every wrong one. Okay. Let me see. I'm trying to get this up here and I got this wrong. Let me see. Let me see. Give me 1 second. But it's going to be every Saturday in the month of October. And what we're going to have is different women coming on to talk about surviving. And we as women, we go through a lot of different, there is the flyer. We go through a lot of different situations. And so on next month, we'll have a talk on the 2nd, the 9th, the 23rd, and the 30th. And it will be about sister supporting sisters. We'll talk about surviving and how we have survived the different life situations that we've been through. And we on this channel, we always support our mental, physical, social, and we're going to add some spiritual in the next few weeks. So we can survive, but we do need to have be a well-rounded person. So join us in the upcoming weeks to talk about We Are Survivors. It will be our Survivor series. You don't want to miss it. Also, on the 16th, we will be having a mental health conference with different clinicians and doctors who will come and talk about mental health. So, you don't want to miss it. We're not going away. We're doing great things. Sisters supporting sisters. That is our mission. That is our goal. Don't miss it. Join us again next Saturday at 11 a.m. for the Survivor Series. Thank you, everyone, and we pray that you have a blessed and wonderful weekend. Bye.
Bye.